All right, everybody. Good morning. It's morning, actually. Last video I did was at night because everything was all topsy-turvy and upside down. Today we are going to be recording in the morning before I can process and get everything loaded up for you guys. Welcome to episode 6 of Tales from a Professional Nerd. I am that nerd. I am Bryan C.P. Steele, uh, game industry professional extraordinaire. Um, that's so silly. I might cut that out. I don't know. We'll see. Um, so today, the name of the episode is Freelance Juggling Act. Um, So in the last episode, I was pulled pretty thin. The last couple weeks have been, to be completely honest, they've been hellish. Um, and it's not just because, I've been juggling a bunch of deadlines and, uh, I myself was coming off some medication and it's been crazy. It came up in the last episode that um, sometimes trying to make the balancing act work between friend, family, and professional is difficult, especially when you work for multiple people, when you're a freelancer, you've got lots of different bosses, lots of clients that you're working with, and sometimes their schedules don't coincide with yours. Sometimes they're in a different time zone. I often work with people in completely different continents. Um, and that can get pretty taxing. Making sure that you've got your schedule written down and a calendar up, and deadlines are here, deadlines are there. Life happens. Um, for instance, I'll be honest. I had a deadline 4 days ago that I should be finishing up today, and I hate that I'm even those 4 days late. It kills me. Makes me absolutely insane. That because I mean, frankly, because life got in the way. In this instance, my wife, which I've talked quite a bit about, she's an amazing artist. She's a full-time cake decorator, but she also suffers from a nerve disorder called myasthenia gravis. I actually have a GoFundMe set up to help take care of some of those insane medical bills involving her disorder. Um, but she has good most of the time. She's fine, and occasionally she isn't. And these last 2 weeks have been, to be frank and to be honest, it's been and isn't. Uh, when she has bad spells with her MG, she can't make it into work. I end up having to drive the kids everywhere. Kids soccer, karate, back and forth to school. It ends up eating a lot of my day, and I end up doing a lot of late night, work shifts because during the day I've got to take care of other things, and it takes its toll. Again, last week I apologize if I was scattered and I was haggard, or if the thumbnail for the video was not so pretty because it was late at night and I was an unwashed heathen. Today, not so much. I showered, I shaved, I look good, except I didn't do my hair. Um, I'm feeling good. Again, this vlog is about sharing. We had a doctor's appointment yesterday with her specialist, who's an amazing doctor down in Indianapolis. Um, and he got her on a new kind of medication that will hopefully nip this weird thing that's been happening in the bud. And thankfully, it is not as expensive as the other meds. But yeah, so let's just say that I'm mad at myself for having to even add these extra couple of days to a deadline that I should have been done with. But as is the topic for today, uh, I had a lot to juggle, and every time that something weird and wacky happens, there's ripples in the pond, and my ripples were pretty big these last couple weeks, and knocked me out of my canoe. I'm full of metaphors today. It's all metaphor, metaphor, metaphor. Meta 5, Meta 6, whatever. Meta human. Uh, Speaking of metas, Flash season finale was fantastic this week. Such random scotch. All right, so um, before I get into the actual topic and start talking about kind of the pluses and minuses, pros and cons to being a full-time freelancer, full-time dad, and husband and friend and all the other stuff. Um, I mentioned for the last couple of weeks that I had some good news, but I couldn't talk about it yet. Well, I got the official okay and official time slot yesterday. So I can go ahead and tell you all about it. And I get to actually tell you about it right before event registration goes live. So hopefully I'll see some of you guys at the event. Uh, so to back it up just a little bit, one of my good friends that works for GTM, Richard Ankney, he does weekly videos like this through GTM. He does like the mini meeples weekly, or painting meeples weekly, or painting minis weekly. I don't remember the exact name, uh, because I normally just, I get the thing on my phone and says, "Hey, watch the video," and I say, "Yay!" Him and my buddy Dave Taylor, quite a bit, almost every week, they do a video where they're painting minis and talking to the camera. And about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, they were talking about how Richard likes to role play at conventions, and he would love to, get some of us together to play at one of these conventions. And I made the sideways comment of, it would be super cool if we could play and maybe play for charity and make it into like an event, make it a thing. And Richard's like, "Oh my God, that would be fantastic. Let me know if it happens." And so I immediately set to work to start, putting out emails and start talking to people about, "Hey, what about this? What do you think about this?" And I got a hold of the guys at GenCon, and they have created, basically, they made a setup for us to hold the event. So yay! I'm gonna do some charity D&D. It's just gonna be a little 3-hour session on Saturday night, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. I will put the event code in the description of this video, so that way, come May 19th, when the event stuff goes live, if you want to try and ticket in and get in on this action, that would be fantastic. Again, would love to see all of you guys there. Um, Not only because of the support for the new event, but also for charity. So Gen Con's charities this year, by the way, are the Special Olympics of Indiana and Game to Grow. I was going to set up an on-site, like an online off-site GoFundMe to have an additional charity for all the people out there that watch this that can't um, that can't attend Gen Con, or want to do their part. Um, I have not decided whether or not that's a good idea. I don't want to. I don't want to set something up that people might think is fishy. That, like, I'm just trying to generate some scratch for me or mine, when it's, so when it's a charity event. And Gen Con already has the charity stuff set up, so we could, at the end of the event, we do a tally and figure out how much money has been generated, and we can tell everybody, I'll let everybody know on the the video following Gen Con, hey, we did good, we made X number, $100 or $1,000 or whatever. But yeah, so like I said, I'm gonna put the event code up in the description of this video. So you guys can hopefully set those 3 hours aside to come and watch me run a game for a bunch of industry folk. I'm trying to line up some pretty cool celebrity industry and maybe even regular celebrity players to help kind of drum up business for the event. But because of the time slot, I'm running into some issues. Saturday dinner time is tough for some of these guys. So far, right now, the only person I know that will be there is Richard, who is awesome. I don't want to say I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for him. It was his idea, effectively. Um, but we're putting out feelers. We're putting out some emails, talking to some people, see if we can't get some more cool people at the table. It's just going to be basically 3 hours of a fun D&D session with ways for audience participation. Basically, you can bring some change with you, bring some money with you, and by on the spot donating to charity, you can help change the plot, adjust what happens, almost like a charity choose your own adventure. Give the players or the DM re-rolls if you're feeling froggy. Basically, it's ways for a room full of gamers to uh, have buy their way into having a say in the game, and hopefully it'll be a lot of fun. That's fingers crossed. We're hoping that it'll be a lot of fun and maybe something that I can do or arrange to do at other conventions around the world, or other people might follow suit and do similar situations. Either way, I think it'd be cool. It'll be a fun event. It'll be neat to run D&D for an audience effectively. And kind of more than anything, hopefully we'll generate some charity, generate some money for some people who need it. So yeah, that was my good news that I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. And I know some people were like, I thought it was going to be work related. I mean, it is kind of work related because it's involving me being out in front of people and trying to get people to donate and stuff at GenCon. But either way, I'm excited, and you'll as I start lining up people for guests aside from myself running it and Richard being the first player, um, we will have some announcements as far as when new guests sign on as hey, I'm going to be there. And in a really really worst case scenario, not even a worst case scenario, it might just be a cool scenario, depending on how many people, how many of these industry folk line up and say, yeah, we want to be part of this, we want to do this. And who knows, maybe if there's an empty chair before Gen Con or if someone cancels or something like that, maybe I will run some kind of online, charity bidding contest or something for someone to buy a chair at the table. Let me know in the comments. See if you guys would be kind of cool with that idea of whoever can put the most towards the charity can fill one of the roles and be part of this event and be part of this thing that we're doing. I don't know. Let me know. Put it in the comments. We'll talk. All right, so let's get to the meat of this video. Like I said, I've got a lot to do today, so I probably won't run real long on this video. It won't be one of my long, hour plus stretches, but it will. It is an important topic, and I come at it from the perspective of someone who has a family and works from home full time for the industry. But I really think that it probably applies to anybody who works from home or who makes their own schedule, um, or juggles family life and professional and family schedules. Um, I think that there's a misconception that for the people like us that work for ourselves and work on our own schedule and work from home, and in this case, working in a studio here in the house, that I think the misconception is that we don't, that we have just a ton of free time, and at any time we want to, we can just, get up and do these things, and oh yeah, well, uh, it's not a full-time job. It's not a real job because I'm not punching a clock. And I think before I start talking about the the ins and outs of what my day generally looks like on a day-to-day basis, and what it looks like when things get crazy, is uh, I want to point out to people that just because you don't work 9 to 5, or just because you don't work 8 to 4 with a lunch break, or scheduled smoke breaks or whatever, does not mean that you are not at your job, that you're not working. Um, that's probably the biggest thing that I have had to, over the last 20 years, or roughly 20 years of working, freelance, or working from home, is that because we make our own schedule, we don't work as much. And I'm going to say this straight away. I think that it is actually quite the opposite. Because we make our own schedule, and because we work when we have to work, we are far more likely to work longer hours, because we don't have a clock that we have to, oh, we got to punch out by 5 o'clock or we get overtime. Or, you gotta, if I was in at 8, well, I'm out at 4, because time for a freelancer, for someone who works from home, is so fluid. Um, there's a lot of times where I'll, wake up early, get, 20, 30 minutes worth of work in, and go do my stuff. And then, go, take the kids to school, come back, work for a bunch, oh, hey, someone's got a dentist appointment. I got to go do that. And then, by the time, 5, 6 o'clock rolls around, and it's, time to make dinner, time to, get things set up that way. Uh, I've been in the studio all day. And then shortly after dinner, oh, hey, I got that one more email I got to pick up, or I was waiting for this thing to process, or, Dropbox was downloading the files that I need for tomorrow. I'm just going to pop into the studio for a second. That second turns into 20 minutes, turns into, oh, hey, and this other email came in. And I don't think we ever really stop working, unless we're actually literally out of the house, because there's always time. Yeah, having this dedicated space is nice because I can shut the door and go elsewhere into the house, um, and be like, okay, I'm not at work, I'm not in the studio. And I think that probably is helpful because I can separate the literally have a divider between myself and the rest of the house. But it doesn't mean that, it's not on my mind and it's not what I'm thinking. And, you know, if deadlines are looming, there's quite a bit of time. There's lots of times where I'm out. I don't want to be completely sequestered from my family. So I'm working from my laptop in the living room while we're watching TV. Or while I'm making dinner, I'm throwing down a couple hundred words on the countertop. Um, it's difficult to try and juggle everything. Again, like the name of this video, um, it's a balancing act, and sometimes the balance becomes way tipped in one side or the other. Whether it's because some bills come due, or a project comes across that is, oh my god, I got to get this done because it's amazing. It's gonna make my quarter. Whatever the case may be, you got to prioritize where there's only so much time in the day, and caffeine can only get you so far. Speaking of, I just realized that I'm drinking my Dunkin' coffee, and I'm wearing my Dungeons and Dragons shirt that's in the Duncan style from my wonderful friends over at Armor Class 10 t-shirt place. You know what? I'll link them. I'm gonna put the thing in there, and they won't even know. I'll be like, haha, I'm talking about you and wearing your stuff. Unexpected sponsor. Uh, Not really. They're not really sponsoring me. Just I've got a t-shirt. It's cool. Um, where was I going with that? Oh, all right. So, yeah, I think that um, it's very easy for someone to go, "Oh my God, you have a dream job. You get to work from your home." Is it my dream job? Absolutely. I don't think I'll ever not be a writer of some capacity or a designer in some capacity into my old and gray years. I don't think devoted gamers ever really retire. They just slow down and stop needing to hit word count every day. Um, but it does not mean that my job is not hard, or that other people who end up in that same kind of capacity, that they're not struggling with what they're doing. The back and forth of editing is a pain, but it's necessary. Otherwise, you get products that are half-ass and not something that you want your fans and family to read in the first place. Um, it's difficult for me sometimes when a friend, calls me out of the blue and is like, "Hey, I need to do this thing. I know you're home. Can you do this thing for me? Can you watch my dog? Can you, come over and feed my cats? Can you drive me to the airport? Can these are things that, as a friend, I have no problem with, but depending on the timing, sometimes it feels like the only reason that someone is asking you is because they know that you're available at that time, and you might not be. Just because I'm home and just because I'm in the studio doesn't mean that I'm available. Um, I think over the years it has gotten better. I know initially I felt like everybody and their brother called me for if it had anything to do with something that needed to be done during the day on a weekday. I was like one of the first on the list because, well, Bryan's home. I know Bryan's home. He doesn't have to be at work, except this is my work. And I think that that's one of those things that if you decide to work from home, if you do decide to be a freelancer, or you do decide to be a professional in some way where you work on your own schedule, that you have to be ready and you've got to be willing to look at people and say, no, I'm working. And if their response is, yeah, but you work from home, you just tell them straight, this is my office. Those are the hours that I'm at work. Or if you feel like you can make the room for them and you can make that part of the thing, then do it. There's lots of times where for instance, one of my best buddies and playtesters, he had to take his car in to get serviced crazy early in the morning the other day, and yeah, it meant that I started my day earlier than anticipated. And it meant that I had to do some driving around in the morning that I normally don't do. But it didn't really put me out. If anything, maybe it got kind of jump started my morning to get to work faster. But what it did do is, and I'm glad that I was able to help, and I'm glad that it felt like that was a situation where he was in a pinch. It wasn't a, hey, can you take me down to the drugstore because, I'm on meds and I can't drive. Call an Uber. This was different. This was, I need to be there by 7 o'clock in the morning because they need to fix my car because I need to get to work. And please, can you help me? And I'm down and I'm on that and I'm fine with it. It's it wasn't that kind of request. And it wasn't a, hey, I'm asking because I know you're home. It was, I'm asking because you're my friend and you get up early because you have kids. And so that's kind of where that came from, is that it was a request because he knows that I'm not a morning person, but I do get up quite a bit because I've got, two dogs, two cats, and two kids, which require my attention in the morning. The last couple of weeks, they've required my attention in the morning, and there's nothing I can do to help shunt some of the other responsibilities. My juggling, like I mentioned, has been more juggle than normal. I've had more balls in the air because uh, my wife's been kind of down for the count, and every other waking moment has been set up for trying to get these deadlines pushed out. And the kids are getting to the end of school, so they've got field trips and all that stuff, and it's been madness. Uh, so that's I feel like I'm digressing again, but that's kind of the whole purpose of what I meant here is if you are if you have to take these deadlines, you gotta juggle the deadlines, juggle the various responsibilities. You gotta keep a calendar. You gotta make sure that you've got um, all of your uh, ducks in a row. Make sure hey, okay, today is Wednesday, and it's not, but in my head. So today's Wednesday. I've got to feed the dogs, feed the cats, make sure the kids eat breakfast, get the boy to school in town to come back to get the girl to her school, get started on my work. Around 2 on my calendar, it says I've got a phone meeting with the guys in California. All right, so set that aside, make sure that that's there. By 3 o'clock, I need to go, or by 2:45, I need to pick up the boy from school, and be home by 3:30. You have to kind of know what all of these things are going to be and line that stuff up. I used to be I used to be awful about just doing what needs to get done. Just be up when it pops across my schedule, I'll get it taken care of. And now that I'm dealing with more family stuff and uh, more individual projects that might only last 2-3 weeks, instead of oh, hey, here's this game that needs designed over the course of the next 6 months, or this book that needs to be written by next spring. I'm doing more lists. I make lists for myself. I put lists in my phone. We have a checklist for all the various bills that need to get paid each month and when they're due. um and I'm sure for some of you that you're going to look at this and go, all right, that's just life, that's normal stuff. um it wasn't for me. It wasn't normal for me for a long time. Quite a bit. I had other people, my first wife, or when I was in school, my roommates, that would help me organize these things. And now that I've been running my own business as a freelancer for as long as I have, and I'm a parent, and kind of the main force behind keeping the house together. I've got to keep lists. I've got to keep schedules. Um, and I got to do my damnedest to try and keep to them, or I will get lost in the shuffle. I'll drown in all these little things that happen. Um, and I think that anybody, you got to be honest with yourself. Are you a list and task oriented person? Are you more of a don't put so much on your plate, get one thing done and move on to the next? And as it was very recently brought up to me, you have to be willing and able to ask for help, because especially as we grow older in this life, you can't just try and shoulder everything, or the stress will kill you. I sharing time. So because I am dealing with all of this extra stuff lately, and this extra stress, I've been pulled a little thin, a little tight. And the other day in the car, I was really tense, and every single muscle was like ready to go, and I was on absolute edge. And my son Connor, who is 10 going on 11, um, and the absolute apple of my eye, uh, he did something 10. He did something something silly and annoying that a 10-year-old does, because they do. Oh God, they do. Um, and I it was the last little pluck of my rubber band, and I barked at him. I barked at him pretty loud, and I sort of gave him both barrels for a second, and I had to kind of immediately, you know, get myself together, and I gave him a big hug, and I was like, bud, I'm sorry. I was like, what you did not deserve what you just verbally got. And and he was okay with it, and he was like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, Dad. And I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you, you know like that. I should have just said, hey, don't do that, kind of deal. And it it really highlighted to me just how heavy things had become, that I let something like, something so minor, uh, push my button to the point where I popped. And uh, that is something that I have never been good at. Um, it's something that I'm still learning. Is I do not deal with my stress well. I stack it up, and I stack it up, and I stack it up, and eventually it either comes out in the form of a nervous, like an anxiety spiral, where uh, the world is ending and everyone hates me, and I'm never going to work again in the industry, and pretty soon I'll be sweeping streets. Uh, or I will just like completely shut down and become this sort of lump on a log, where I'm helpful to nobody, and my normal charming personality just gets set aside for this kind of dark gray slug that just wants to get through life. I gotta eat my next food, and I gotta sleep, and then I'll eat my next food. And I think that I know that there are a handful of I have a handful of things, and this is something that I think might be good advice for anybody who also sometimes has to spin too many plates or have too many balls up in the air, and other metaphors, is find something that you can do that'll help de-stress you. And whether it's go get a massage, or spend time outside, or play with your dogs, or what or cats, or hamsters, or whatever you need to do, is you got to find a way to let it go. And For me, normally, one of the ways that I blow my stress away is either playing dumb video games on my Xbox, or uh, one way that is uh, more successful for me is painting and sculpting, over in the hobby section of the studio. That's a way for me to I just get basically lost in the work, and I'll turn on a movie or turn on some music, and just sort of watch kind of the creative process, almost sort of pull myself out of my body and watch it from above. And that has always been a way for me to refocus my mind, and kind of let that stress out. And over the last couple of days or last couple of weeks, I just haven't had the ability, haven't had the time, because there's just too much going on. to sit down and, between, work and family stuff, I haven't had those couple of hours a week to just sort of sit back and go, must get this stuff done. Let's get this stuff done. And it took its toll. Luckily I'm coming out on the other side of that, and I'm excited. Turning in stuff today, turning in some stuff earlier this week. Jumping in on a new project, but it's a new project that I think I've got ample time. So I've got until the end of the month to get that done. So I got a little over 2 weeks. It's just, I think I think it will be necessary for me to start scheduling some de-stress time. I really want to get back down to Indianapolis. They've got this really cool place that you do like a sensory deprivation saltwater float, except it's not complete sense depth. They play music for you, and it's the best of all worlds for me. It's like being in a dark ocean and floating and listening to whatever music is tripping my trigger that day. But I need to get back down there. It was very almost meditative last time. It's been a while. But yeah, so again, I feel like I'm kind of rambling on this topic, but let's take a look. I'm going to, and you might very well go, well, this is not my life. This is Bryan's day. I'm just going to tell you. So this is how my week goes, and I'm going to get. I'm gonna be. This is an average week. That I'm not going to take into consideration if Natalie is sick or if there's a special like crunch time deadline or anything like that. It's just a normal week for Bryan. And I'll do it based off my calendar because it starts on a Sunday. Normally, I consider my weeks starting on Mondays, but okay. So Sunday is kind of my day to normally get caught up on stuff in the studio, whether it's painting or sculpting, or I've got to drop a few words in there. Lately, it's also been soccer games for Nori. That's my stepdaughter. So, and then, ends with the, I don't know if you guys heard that or not, but big old truck went by my house, and that may have been annoying on the microphone. I don't know yet. I hope not. If you didn't hear anything, I'm going to sound crazy. If you did, I apologize. But yeah, so the Sunday is I get caught up on things, try and get yard work done if I can, get my lawn mowed, all that garbage, basically just kind of get caught up on stuff that you can't do during the week because you don't have time to do elsewhere. And then Saturday or Sunday night, you get dinner with the fam, and then it's normally an hour or two of TV with Natalie, sometimes with the kids. Lately, it's been kind of close things out with Game of Thrones season 8. But we'll see where that goes next, and then we go to bed and then wake up Monday morning bright and early to get the animals fed, the children fed, the children to school, and then I start work. I normally get into the studio to start work by 9 or 9:30, depending on whether or not I need to run and go do any errands in town. Which, by the way, I live roughly 20 minutes away from any of like large department stores or anything. So if it's something small that I can get at like our little local grocery shop, it's only 5 minutes away. But if it's something where I've got like, oh, okay, hey, I need to pick up this random thing at Target, that's a 20-25 minute trip there and back. So that's like going to be an hour out of my day, if not more. So yeah, so 9:30, I'll sit down, I'll check my email, see if there's anything that is pressing and needs to be responded to immediately. I'll search through my junk mail as best I can, my spam filter, to see if anything has popped in from people who have gotten my email address, people who maybe are hopefully looking for me to do some work for them, or sometimes it's just it's not someone who I've emailed enough to be in my contacts list, so they uh, they get swallowed up by the spam filter, and I got to try and find them. And if it's an important one, it's why it's part of my day, at least twice a day. Hang on, I got itch. At least twice a day, I'll check through my spam filter and make sure that everything's there, or that nothing is there, I should say, nothing that's important. Uh, Work pretty steady, try and get as many words down, or make prototype cards, or start drawing out maps or whatever needs to be done for whatever projects that are being worked on. Till about 12:30 or 1. Stop, make lunch. Run down to the post office, get my mail, come back, work for a couple more hours. If it's a day where I've got my son, at about 2:15, I leave to go pick him up from school, because his school is in town. Man, my nose is crazy itchy. Um, I head into town to go pick him up, get back by 3:15, in time for Nori to come home from her school, which is just like 2 blocks away. So she actually rides her scooter back and forth to work or to school. Um, if Natalie if Natalie went to work that day, she normally gets home right around 3:15, 3:30, to help the kids with their homework, that kind of thing. If she is unavailable, I'm normally helping them with their homework until about 4:15. And then I'll hop back in here, do my best I'll hang the sign on the door that says, leave daddy alone, he's working. And then work until 5:15, maybe 5:30, depending on how much, what kind of role that I'm doing. If I'm throwing words down as fast as I can, and I'm in the zone, I might not get out of here till 6 or 6:15. To then go out, make dinner, do the dishes, feed the animals a second time, both the 2-legged and 4-legged variety. And then I'll normally, unless things get really crazy, I'll take a couple hours off, whether it's to watch TV with the family, take one of the kids to, their various practices or classes that they've got going on. And then, around 9 o'clock or so, kids start getting ready for bed. We've got various bedtime routines. Monday night is where we spend time. I spend time with the boy, with Connor, and Natalie spends some time with Nori, just kind of one-on-one parent time. And then at 9:30, 9:45, they go to bed, and then I'll spend some time with Natalie, maybe watching a movie or watch TV, or depending on what's going on. If things are hectic and I'm under deadlines like I have been lately, I hop back into the studio and I get a couple more hours work in, and then I try to get to bed by 12:30, 1 o'clock. For the next day at 7, when my alarm goes off, I wake up and start anew. Take care of the animals, take care of the kids, get kids to school. That's pretty much my Tuesday. My Monday and Tuesday are pretty identical. Wednesday, that's all the same thing, except I do not pick Connor up from school Wednesday, unless it's a strange day, because he goes to his mom's house afterwards on Wednesday. And Wednesday night lately, instead of watching TV with Natalie before bed, I get some Xbox time with some of my friends from around the country. Lately, we've been playing a bunch of Star Wars Battlefront 2, blowing stuff up. Wait for me to de-stress as much as possible. Thursday and Friday tend to be roughly the same as Monday, Tuesday, except instead of taking the boy to school, I just take Nori to school, and I get some Daddy Nori time at the end of the night on Thursday. Friday, occasionally I'll run a playtest game or something that night, or maybe we'll go see a movie. But other than that, that's pretty much my weekdays. And then Saturday, Natalie works most Saturdays, so I'm kind of on kid duty Saturday morning, getting her to soccer games. If they've got a sleepover, making sure all the kids that are visiting get fed. And I'll spend a little time in the studio, probably getting some work done. Maybe if I have time, getting some painting or some sculpting done. Um, or sometimes it's just open up a game that I haven't looked at. One of the games that I've gotten from Kickstarter or something. Read the instructions. Uh, it's Saturday is hopefully a little more free form unless I'm just really under the gun. And then then we're back to Sunday and it all starts over again. So it, again, I don't know if any of you guys even care about this whole this whole thing. This video seems weird that I'm just kind of telling you about my life and how it works. But I guess that's why I started this whole thing, is to talk about to kind of normalize what we do. Um, and it's hard. It's hard sometimes. You know, I am I jealous of the guy who punches the eight to 5 clock every day at the Subaru plant down the way? Definitely not. I couldn't do that. That would kill me. Not physically, but just it would stifle me to the point where I would want to be dead. Um, especially now that I am trying, right now, while Natalie's kind of struggling with her illness, I'm doing so much around the house and so much of the stuff with the kids, um, and taking her doctor's appointments, and I couldn't do all of those things if it wasn't for the fact that I do work from home and I make my own schedule. And it makes my life hell right now because I got so much stuff that I have to do and so many family things and stuff to juggle around trying to get all this work done that it feels like I have zero time to myself. Um, Despite being in a studio all day long to myself. You know what I mean? At least I hope you do. If you don't, ask questions, comments, subscribe. I don't know. Losing my brain. Um, but yeah, so I think that I hope that you guys hear this and listen to this and don't and you don't think that this is just some big Bryan pity party. I'm actually trying to point out the fact that people who work from home and freelancers in this industry, we spend a lot of time fishing for work. We try and get every contract we can feasibly. We try and negotiate the ability to pay our bills, and sometimes we get thrown for a loop. Life occasionally, you know, deals you that hard 12. And what do you do? And it's it is not um, it is not something that I think is for everybody. And I know that sounds weird. I don't think that everybody can do this. Um, I think that it takes a certain sense of uh, not only just dedication, uh, but you've got to realize that there are going to be things that you have to set aside and you've got to sacrifice if you want to be successful working for yourself and working from home. One of the things that I know that a lot of us freelancers, especially in the gaming industry right now, we have to deal with is that there are a ton of jobs out there, a ton of places that are hiring the coveted staff positions with various gaming production companies and publishers. That when you talk to them and go, yeah, absolutely, I'm ready to do this. Let's do this. It sounds like I'm perfect for your job. And they go, oh, hey, well, can you move to Seattle or can you move to Atlanta? Can you move to Montreal? Um, and I feel for the I'm almost jealous of the people that have the ability to do that. That they can go, you know what, I can move for this job. I can't. I don't have that luxury. I've got a family. I've got friends. I've got a son. That I would never leave. You could offer me, $100,000 job. I would not leave my son behind. It's just not going to happen. And it's it is one of those things that I think in the digital age, in our day and age, with cameras, as good as this, and Dropbox and Google Drive, and Zoom and Skype, and all these various these mobile office abilities, phones that if I'm not in the studio but you still need to talk to me, guess what? I can have all my files on my phone. You know, I highly believe, like I believe wholeheartedly that it is unnecessary for 90% of the jobs in our industry, for you to be physically on site. That we hire out to artists all the time that make their stuff. We hire, we have play test teams that are doing basically the testing and the editing offsite all the time. Writers, we sit in front of our computer all day. Where that computer happens to be, could be in this place, could be at a Starbucks, whatever. I can't imagine, unless it is literally just we're worried that you're not going to be working when we're paying you to be working. Unless it's that sort of scenario, I cannot see an employer requiring you to physically be in a position, in a specifically an office, a place. And it is one of the most disheartening things as a freelancer when you apply for a job, or you hand your resume, your CV over to somebody, and they go, "Oh my God, you have everything that we need." And you go, "Awesome. What is the first project we want to take a look at?" And they go, "Well, can you move to X city? Can you be physically here? Or the job is physically here." And it is such a blow to the stomach. Like you just get this pit, because that you can do the job. That you have the ability, you've got the skills, you've got the perseverance, and you've got the dedication. You can make that happen. You can make it work. But they won't do that. It's their job, it's their call. Earlier videos I had said, don't forget, you're always working for the employer, and it's the employer's work, and that they get the final say. And if the final say is they want to be able to look over your shoulder and make sure that you're there from 8 to 5 working on the project, that's the way it is. And it sucks. It hurts to lose a job, to lose a contract, because you're not physically there. But it is what it is, and it sets us up for why working from home requires you to be a juggler. It requires you to keep that balancing act, because you have to be able to show that you do have the dedication to the project, that you're not screwing around, that you're not pulling the fabled artist syndrome of, "I don't feel like it today." That's bull stuff. I almost just cursed. I'm trying not to on these videos. And I think that hopefully it's apparent, and hopefully it's important that those of us that can stay the course, and keep up that work. I hate to use the term work ethic, but that constant drive to make these things happen, and hopefully happen as close to on time as possible. Again, I feel so bad that I'm slightly over on one of my deadlines, that I'm gonna be killing this video here pretty soon so I can get back to it and get it turned in today. But it's so important that if you want to work for yourself, and if you want to work your own schedule, and you want to work freelance at your own disposal, you have to be ready to have weeks like I have in the last couple weeks. You never know. Your car might break down. In my case, my wife got sicker. You might have, I'm going to go dark for a second. You might have a family member pass away, a beloved pet pass away. these things can happen. And unlike a regular job that might give you bereavement time, or that might give you, here's, you've got 2 weeks of sick leave, take them how you need them. Working for yourself and working for working as a freelancer and working for these clients, contract to contract, guess what? You don't have any of that. So you either have to build yourself into a situation where the client will understand what has happened, or that you can look at them and say, I spent the last 3 days in the hospital. Please, I hope that we can make sure that this works out. Or, to be completely honest, you gotta bust ass and make sure that your work is exemplary and something that they look at and go, yeah, it was a couple of days overdue, but it was really awesome, and I can't wait to work with the guy again. These are things you got to hope for, and you got to strive for, and you got to work towards. And I'm hoping that, personally, being very self-centered, and this is my vlog. I can be self-centered if I want to. Right now, I'm in that situation where I hope that my work shines, and that the people who I'm doing this work for, they see that despite the hardship and despite the fact that things have been rough for the last couple of weeks, that I'm not leaving them in the dust. I'm not calling them and saying, yeah, I can't do this. I'm saying, bear with me. I'm going to get this done, and it's going to be just sweet, and it's going to be awesome. I just have to make sure that I don't, kill myself in the meantime. So again, I want to reiterate, this video has been a lot of me kind of talking about me, but I'm trying to point out that if you do want to be someone who works from home, or someone who works in this industry, not in an office or as a staffed member, that you get yourself prepped, that you prepare yourself for the fact that, going to quote Ian from Jurassic Park, life happens. Life will find a way. And in this case, life will find a way to screw with you. That you might get a bill that you weren't expecting. You might have, some kind of complication. You might have your computer, die out on you. These are all things that you got to get ready to roll with and deal with. And those are the priorities. Not your work is a priority. Your work should be a priority. It doesn't mean that it is the priority. Right now, my priority is making sure that my wife is healthy, and that, my kids are fed and make it to school, and that all the bills get paid. But it does mean that maybe I'm not sleeping as much, and maybe I am spending a lot more time in this studio than I want to. But hopefully here in a couple of weeks, things will get back to normal, and I'll be back to, painting for fun. And I know I want to sculpt some stuff to start selling some resin casts on eBay again. And, again, it's just a lot of cool stuff that you gotta be ready to, you gotta work toward being able to do the stuff you want by doing the things you have to. Do the stuff you need so you can do the stuff you want. If that makes any sense at all. I don't know. I think I'm rambling. All right. So I'm going to close out with thanks for listening to me go on. I hope this was a helpful video, entertaining video. I don't know. I don't think I've picked a topic for next week. We'll figure it out along the way. If you have any cool ideas or anything, put it in the comments below. What we can talk about next week. And make sure you check the description for that GenCon event if you want to come out and do some cool stuff for charity with me. You know how it is. Let's just take a look and have a good weekend, and play some games. We'll see you next week.